Affectionate, the spring sun flooded with soft light a spacious room with bright toy furniture and funny pictures on the walls. Teacher Lola sat on a small chair near the window, watching children draw. She has another 20 precious minutes of peace and quiet. Soon you have to put on an idiotic smile on your face and admire all these masterpieces, and in the evening, smiling even wider, show parents ugly pictures of their mediocre offspring. Cutting phone calls forced. Lola flinches. Heard pleasant male baritone in the tube. Woman involuntarily straightened her hair. Mrs. Couch, this is Dad Jeffrey. Today I want to pick up my daughter early. Can you put her to bed? Well, certainly, I will take care of it, the teacher sang in a honeyed voice. Jeffrey so happy that Dad will come for her. Usually her older sister picks up or the nanny is sick. Our nanny willingly supported the conversation invisible interlocutor. It with the class for a week at Prague left. I decided to leave early today, to spend the whole day with my youngest daughter. Understand you. Serious business takes so long that it practically does not remain even on those, someone you love, Lola sighed. We see, the man was not ready to have intimate conversations with his daughter's teacher because he quickly ended the conversation and said goodbye. Finally, Lola will see this mysterious Mr. Perry with his own eyes. Colleagues buzzed her ears about a wealthy daughter with 2 daughters. A young woman has been working in an elite kindergarten for the 2nd month, but still never crossed paths with the legendary handsome. Lola mentally thanked her friend Marlon and arranged to touch her here to work. Lola always dreamed of marrying a rich man, and lately it has become an idea fix. No beauty had no financial opportunities, unnecessary connections, allowing to rotate in the circles of the capital's beau monde. Marlon explained that divorced dads often come for children, which it is quite possible to hook. Really fussing with these creepy naughty kids will finally bring her good dividends. After lunch, Lola told the assistant to put the children to bed and stayed with her daughter and wife in the game room. Jeffrey, you won't sleep, your dad will come soon. Now I will sleep, I will not sleep. Blonde baby jumped merrily. This fact pleased her the most. By no, Dad, draw him something, and I'll go away for a minute. Lola Vasilievna, what should I draw? Yes, anything, carelessly abandoned by the teacher, taking makeup out of the bag. After I realized, Jeffrey, draw something pretty. The sun or a flower? Fish. It dawned on the girl. Exactly, draw a goldfish. I will be right back. Lola, preening, enjoy looking at your reflection in the mirror. Luxury blonde hair has now been removed in a strict hairstyle, long eyelashes hid the coldish gleam of gray eyes, a graceful, slightly snub-nosed nose merged with an arrogant expression, and any youngster would envy a slender, flexible figure. She returned to the group. Jeffrey enthusiastically painted the paper, paying no attention to the teacher. Lola, for some reason I was sure that familiarity with Mr. Perry will certainly become fateful for her. She knew, who was stunningly beautiful at 35, looked strong at 26 years old. But fact is fact, at 30 plus the clock is ticking. Lola grew up in a small town. Mother always said that such an irresistible beauty should not be exchanged for trifles. Main happy marriage, the rest will be. For girls with such a stunning appearance, it will not be difficult to find a financially secure spouse. No wonder I called you Lola. This rare name, worthy of a queen. Queen, come on, my mother used to call me that. The IN schoolgirl studied average and therefore, having come to conquer the capital, was able to barely get into a rundown teacher training college. Lola can't stand kids, but students were provided with hostels, and with her poverty it meant a lot. Becoming overnight, the sparkling star of the capital's sky did not work, but the enterprising provincial did not lose heart. Sometime Lola even dated her teacher's son. He is not from the rich, but metropolitan registration. Inexperienced, the girl would definitely make the unforgivable mistake of tying the knot of an unfavorable marriage, if not for her new friend Marlon. The girls met by chance at a party and quickly became friends. Girlfriend, a real metropolitan thing, ridiculed the attempt of Lola to marry the teacher's son. Lola, a poor student and a two-room serf in a residential area with his parents to boot, this is far from the dream. If already decided, and then come on, act, or who is the queen here? After college graduation, Lola was lucky to get a job as a secretary in a large agency. Practically immediately she had an affair with a married boss who was 18 years older than her. "Good afternoon, Mrs. Couch. Sorry, I'm a little late." Colorful memories were interrupted with the appearance of Jeffrey's father. Colleagues' gossip didn't lie. Mr. Perry was good-looking, excellently composed, high, pleasant to deal with, and, according to the watch on your wrist, very rich. The populace. Anya ran up to her father with a drawing in her hands. "Daddy, this is for you, thank you big." "Kitty, what a beautiful dog." "This not a dog," plump lips trembled resentfully. "Certainly not a dog, I was joking." Papa was confused. "Octopus?" "Dad, are you blind?" Tears in a child's voice. Mr. Perry looked imploringly at Lola. "Well, what are you, Dad, are you all kidding?" cooed Lola. "You immediately guessed. What is this fish? True adorable goldfish." When Anya ran off to get dressed, Mr. Perry gratefully looked at the teacher. I was rescued." "By the way, I'm Mr. Perry." "Very nice." They had a nice chat about his daughter's progress. Conversation only lasted a couple of minutes, but Lola was satisfied. "Kiss week, Mr. Perry, I came for my daughter." Lola prayed to babysitter Jeffrey hurt for as long as possible, and older sister forever stuck with her class. Conversations with Mr. Perry every day became longer and more pleasant. One day Lola and the millionaire, together with his daughter, fed the ducks in a cozy park near the kindergarten. The populace, Mrs. Couch spoke, who also loves ducks. "Let's take it with us." "I do not mind, Kitty, just don't take, and invite." Still Lola, no wonder I hoped for Jeffrey's good memory. However, if you tell the child only about ducks, she will surely remember this conversation. Next, the day did not set itself in the morning. Second, the questioner suddenly fell ill and Lola had to deal with spoiled children alone for a whole shift, and from the cry of a child she began to have a headache. On an evening walk, Lola instructed the assistant to look after the kids, and she sat down to rest on a bench. Closed eyes, to at least briefly fence off from the noise behind the fence. 2 gate debt. Now a familiar car pulled up. Lola straightened hair quickly, put on the most seductive smile on her face, and almost cried out in disappointment. The eldest daughter jumped out of the back seat of the car wife and, hunched over a little, walked to the playground. Vile a virgin, forever gloomy looks from under his brows. Ask anything, how it starts to glare with black eyes from under the thick bangs. Swarthy Victoria, she didn't look like her fair-haired father and sister at all. Here is the blonde Lola would fit perfectly into this blonde family. Hilda silently stomped past the teacher. "Hello," mockingly called her Lola. The girl turned around for a second and, not stopping, growled, "Hello." If in youth Daddy was a millionaire, would she wear such baggy, dull clothes? Maybe. These ugly clothes are expensive, but they disfigure the thin girlish figure so much. How many years of this shouting? 14 to 15? Ian at this age already want to like the boys, but the sullen girl seems far from the usual teenage joys. Jeffrey, noticing sister, rushed to her with a joyful cry. Opened her arms, picked up the girl and wrapped her arms around her. Necessary the same, this princess knows how to smile. Lola stepped towards the chirping sisters. Mrs. Couch, from the Czech Republic, arrived, boasted. Wonderful, well rested. Not waiting for an answer, the teacher turned the conversation to a topic of interest to her. Now you will pick up your sister, not Mr. Perry Sergeyevich? Jeffrey was so happy when her father came for her. Her dad is not only in kindergarten, but he sees at home. Hilda grinned, throwing on Lola a penetrating eye. Or did you miss it yourself? Lola almost choked with indignation. To goodbye, Jeffrey, she calmly nodded to her ward and with difficulty restraining her rage, went to the children. Wife Lola saw only a week later. Whole the day did not stop pouring rain. Man somewhere in a hurry. He barely exchanged a few words with the teacher. Sorry, we are in a hurry, Mrs. Couch. Need more they shout, take to class. When the man and his daughter left the group, Lola quickly put on a coat, put an umbrella in one of the children's lockers, and ran out after Mr. Perry. Mr. Perry put my daughter in the back seat and, looking back, noticed how a charming teacher froze in confusion on the porch, not daring to go out into the rain. You let down, Mrs. Couch. Thank you, huge. Mr. Perry politely opened the car door for her, sat in the front seat next to the driver. Lola had to be content with the company of his daughters. Victoria with a violin case in her hands, she didn't even look in the direction of the teacher. Hello, Hilda, Lola added more syrup of passion to the voice. Which I am Hilda. Is your kitty homemade, Weather? Victoria. Turning around, the father looked sternly at his daughter. Where take you away, Mrs. Couch? Lola called the address. Jumped indignantly on the seat. This on the other side of town, Dad, and I'll be late for the lesson. If it makes you uncomfortable, I'll take the subway, Lola said heartily, mentally cursing the harmful brat. I don't want to cause conflicts. Mrs. Couch, sit down, ordered Mr. Perry. Now we will abandon they shout to classes, and then we'll take you. You aren't in any hurry? Nowhere. Jeffrey intervened with pleasure. Lola, all the work is done. She snorted loudly as she met her teacher's eyes. Mr. Perry called her on Sunday. Lola, this is Mr. Perry. Finally, eighth Lola without this stupid sitting, I miss it. I'm watching the series New York with Richard Gere, and your eyes are wet again. Maybe, dine here? With pleasure, I haven't been in a restaurant for such a long time. I'm in the car at your house right now, which happiness, that just an hour ago Lola washed my hair. Finally, Mr. Perry will be able to see her gorgeous hair in all its glory. Lola dressed up in the most elegant dress. She could save on anything, but not on clothes. Wardrobe she had a small one, but almost all things are branded. Before exiting, the woman playfully winked at herself in the mirror. Princess. Today Mr. Perry himself was driving a dark green Mercedes. How many of these cool cars, they dangerous without protection? Lola asked carefully. Mr. Perry laughed. Now not the dashing 90s, usually one security guard and a driver are enough for me. This just in case, today I let everyone go. Want to be only with you, Mr. Perry covered her hand with his own. We had a wonderful time in a cozy restaurant. Mr. Perry Zavel talking about. Not take offense at her, please. She took the death of her mother very hard. Now in every beautiful woman he sees a potential enemy, an insidious person who claims to be my wife. Mr. Perry, how can I be offended by a child? Lola was surprised. Especially on a girl who faced such a tragedy, I understand. Thank you, only music saves. Teachers say that her abilities are outstanding. You dazzlingly beautiful, suddenly said in a hoarse voice Mr. Perry kissed her fingertips. Do you know what my nickname was in high school? Queen. Lola lied with pride, although no one called her that except her mother in their seedy town. Really? The man laughed. Sorry, but now you had such a funny expression on your face, just like a girl. Laugh, laugh, thought Lola offendedly. Soon you will know who is the queen in our relationship, and who is a humble servant. Great first kiss was for real revelation. She hasn't felt this excited in a long time. Even I got dizzy, like an enthusiastic innocent young lady. Let's go to you, Mr. Perry asked quietly. Gone crazy, softly whispered Lola. Nur first night in this dull rented hut? Take it away to some luxury hotel. After that evening the couple began to meet. Experienced Lola understood that he cannot miss the only chance to arrange his fate. She thought through every step and forced events and didn't solve problems, as in youth. 19-year-old Lola came to work in a real estate agency, having firmly learned the lessons of seduction from a friend Marlon. Now it remains to move from theory to practice. The boss from the first day began to give the pretty secretary ambiguous signs of attention. Soon Lola became his mistress. Young woman was sure she was very lucky. Boss, a tall black-browed brunette, possessed not only an easy character and a sense of humor, but also very attractive. Euartemia, there was only one drawback. He was firmly married. Mrs. Tony immediately warned that he is not going to divorce his wife. Jackdaw never gives up. We are with her from the institute together. We don't have children. I am the light in the window for her. So that my queen doesn't even fantasize. More we'll see, the secretary thought presumptuously. I saw this chubby woman in luxurious clothes, which suit her like a saddle for a cow. Lola, faithful in her spell, did not argue with her lover, but decided that in a maximum of 6 months she will become Mrs. Tanta. Novel and Elijah developed calmly and beautifully, only the undisguised hostility of the older girl Hilda pretty spoiled Lola's nerves. Decided a long time ago, what will persuade me after the wedding Mr. Perry sent my daughter to study abroad. By the way, Mr. Perry himself repeated more than once about some famous Juilliard school in New York. Here let it go on rides with his violin throughout America. Lola behaved affably, responded to the next hurts with a forgiving smile. But a couple of times, when Mr. Perry reprimanded his daughter for being rude, she could not resist and gave the girl a triumphant look. Lola was even slightly amused. Such a double game. One day Lola broke. Patron saint day to God, that the conflict broke out in the absence of Mr. Perry. And that day Mr. Perry invited his crush to a family dinner for the first time. In the evening Sunday, a man called and said in a guilty tone, "What will be delayed in the office?" "Queen I have a very important meeting, so I won't be able to pick you up myself." "Already sent the driver. He will pick you up later on the way Jeffrey from the children's party, and I will try to be at home by this time." Soon the driver called her wife and said, "What is waiting at the door?" Lola sat in the front seat in a good mood and suddenly heard some rustle behind. About, God. Well, of course, this is the ubiquitous Hilda. "Are you in a hurry to go to class even on Sunday?" asked the teacher politely. Answer did not follow. Instead, the girls answered the driver, "She's all ready from class, Mrs. Couch." Andrew, I was sincerely sorry for the lovely, charming woman who constantly offends. Driver, wanting to diffuse the tense atmosphere, told Lola funny story. You have a high fashionable house with a barrier. The car slowed down. When driver left, there was nothing to breathe in the cabin from rising tension. Lola took a mirror out of her purse, began to correct makeup, and then she was hit in the back by an evil, slightly hoarse voice. "What do you want from my dad, Togo same, that any adult woman?" Without looking up from the mirror, Lola shrugged her shoulders. "Ain't yet married, find a family and be happy. You don't come near my dad, seriously." Lola even turned around. "Why so?" "Because you are evil, greedy, false. Your eyes are cold, like a snake." Slurred every word. "If Dad will propose to you, I will leave home." I hear Lola couldn't stand it. "Yes, really? You can't imagine how happy I would be if you really disappeared somewhere, petty rubbish. Now listen carefully. Whether you like it or not, I will marry your father anyway. Will you bother me? I will turn your miserable life into hell and do everything so that you quickly get out of our house." If I tell Dad everything, what did you say now?" The girl's voice trembled. "Only your father won't believe you, and you know why?" ingratiatingly asked Lola. "Because you were rude to me so many times from scratch. What Mr. Perry won't even mind. What could I say something like that?" "Understood, petty bastard." And black eyes filled with tears. Breathed short and fast. "Exactly," cried. Lola is scared that not enough yet. Honestly, she wasn't sure what Mr. Perry will take her side in this situation, and not beloved daughter. Cold, let's not fight, Lola smiled conciliatory. Just don't interfere with each other. I don't impose on you as a mother. I'm not going to educate you either. You love Dad, I love Dad, so why are we afraid? Oh, who is this beautiful one running towards us? Lola waved her hand emerging from the barrier. "Jeffrey, nobody you love," Hilda said barely audibly. All efforts to achieve Mrs. Tony turned out to be in vain. The year has passed, nothing has changed in their relationship. Boss rented a small luxury apartment, showered with gifts, fully contained, but did not even stutter marriage. One day, having a big fight with a lover, she went to a nightclub, went over with alcohol and, in retaliation to the boss, slept with the first guy she came across. The other day she apologized to her boss for the scandal and forgot to think about that stupid evening. However, a month later, the girl was horrified to discover that she is pregnant. When I was about to have an abortion, suddenly Mrs. Tony took her to his friends for the weekend. Watching how a childless boss enjoys playing with other people's offspring, Lola understood that attacked the gold mine. Even if not married, then he will definitely buy a house and will keep it until the end of his days. What happiness, that random partner from the club looked like a boss. Just as tall, gypsy. Experiencing what Artemy forbade her to give birth, Lola dragged on with recognition until that moment, when it was too late to terminate the pregnancy. Mr. Tony silently listened to the secretary. Now listen, trash queen. Today you quit your job and get out of my apartment. I'm not going to raise someone else's child and tolerate such a brazen deception. Alien? Lola shook with fear and anger. How dare you? Artemy said calmly. You think we jackdaw no child is her fault? No, little predator. I cannot have children. Now get out of here. Lola was shocked. All her Napoleonic plans collapsed into a bottomless abyss. She had to leave the agency. Temporarily girl adopted by a friend Marlon. Lola didn't want to risk my health, getting rid of a child at a later date, so I immediately decided that we'll leave a son or daughter in the hospital. Finally, and on Royals the street is celebrating. Lola knew that Mr. Perry, early lost parents, literally idolizes his older sister, mother who replaced him. Now Mrs. Perry lived in another city with her husband and adult children. I still regret that they moved there 3 years ago. Well, and I burned my son-in-law for health. It was necessary to change the climate. When Natasha died, she said to me, Mr. Perry, you are a young, strong man. Of course, over time you will start dating women again. But, please, introduce me to her. Lola longed for acquaintance with Mr. Perry's sister. If Mr. Perry introduced her to his beloved Mrs. Perry, means wedding is just around the corner. I heard one day Jeffrey ran up to her with a joyful cry, Mrs. Couch. Do you know who came to visit us? My most beloved Aunt Mrs. Perry. She will come to kindergarten for me today, and then we'll all go eat ice cream together. Lola mentally prepares for a meeting with Mr. Perry's sister. It happened. She was walking with children in the yard when she rushed with her arms to a fair-haired thin woman of about 50 and dragged her by the hand straight to Lola. Aunt Tom, this is Daddy's fiancée, Mrs. Couch. Hello, Mrs. Perry smiled warmly. Where she has already seen those cute dimples, kind blue eyes, soft smile. Not maybe, can't be. I gave birth to a healthy black-eyed girl. Lola immediately refused to feed her. But is that possible? Darling, so pretty, your daughter is healthy. How to refuse such charms? With tears in my eyes, and Sister Thomas persuaded the young mother not to abandon the child. Lola almost did not listen to a good woman, stubbornly staring at the spot on the ceiling. My younger brother and his wife for 10 years dream, but it doesn't work. All they have, house full bowl. They are ready to give all their wealth, just to have a baby. A fool, renounces such happiness with your own hands. The girl is so beautiful, brown eyes, like cherries. Lola silently turned her face to the wall. Brown eyes. More not enough, so that the girl all her life resembled this reptile. Tamara also recognized Lola. Lola figured it out by her instantly changed tone. Sister looked at the teacher with some incomprehensible fright and pity when Jeffrey grabbed their hands and offered to eat ice cream. Women unanimously refused. No, Jeffrey, I have a lot to do here. In with next once. No, Jeffrey, we are late. Elijah didn't call. So at night Lola did not close her eyes. If Mrs. Perry told Mr. Perry about the sins of her youth, then right's lost. Her fiancé won't forgive her. By signing renunciation of motherhood, Lola forever closed this page in my life. About abandoned daughter did not remember, like her birth was just a nightmare. How is it unfair? Necessary it was still to talk with Mrs. Perry, and not it's shameful to run away from her. Maine, to Mr. Perry learned nothing. Of this fool ago she can convince that she terribly repents of her deed and has long become a completely different person. Tomorrow Lolo will definitely call the former nurse for a heart-to-heart conversation, and if needed, will beg on his knees not to tell his brother. We see, Mrs. Perry, I needed this conversation too. She came to kindergarten early. By they were in a music class, Lola offered to go out for some fresh air. Woman sat in the gazebo and were silent. Finally Lola couldn't stand it. Mr. Perry knows? Those I am only interested in this? What else? Is there something more important? Mrs. Perry looked at her strangely and shook her head. Sure, sister, last night all the stories of Mr. Perry. Funny hope for a miracle. Oh, why remember, Lola stared at the interlocutor. Us now for a conversation. Here I answer you honestly, I have never regretted it. We see, I have no maternal instinct, what to do here. If you are going to marry my brother, created with two girls, shocked asked Mrs. Perry. How are you going to get along with my nieces, if you can't stand children, like sewing kindergarten working money pay? Here they work, chuckled not Jean Jeffrey, pretty girl, she didn't bother me, I even like her. From your evil Hilda I would somehow get rid of quietly. I didn't even think about it, I heard a man's voice behind me. Lola and didn't notice how I did not fit. Having met Groom's gaze, she immediately understood, nothing to count on. Her self-proclaimed queen defiantly smiled at Mrs. Perry, proudly tossed her head and with a model gait went to the kindergarten building. Mr. Perry together with Jeffrey. Step, Alec, gate or a smack daughter. And whispered in your ear, Jeffrey, run to the car, there you Century waiting with a gift. When the girl ran away, the man took Mrs. Perry for hand. Thomas, I hope you didn't tell that woman, what Century her daughter. Mr. Perry, are you crazy? Sister shook her head reproachfully. Such, how Lola, and will not disdain blackmail. She would cut off all the oxygen for us and easily break life. Hilda, I didn't say a word, don't worry, I'm worried that she herself will understand everything. Mr. Perry stopped the same talk and then. A brother's, who has no children, easy to guess, if you regret your actions, constantly thinking, a girl she forgot about my daughter on the same day, when she gave up. All will be good, certainly, better be Hilda, don't date this woman. Don't worry about it, I already decided everything. On Monday I will translate Jeffrey to another kindergarten, and 2 weeks later the Hilda holidays will start, and we will fly away to rest abroad. Cold, sister, let's go, and then our beloved girls were waiting. Lola, trembling with anger and frustration, looked after the departing family. Well and okay, boring. Certainly, she did everything so well, and here's a hello from the past visible and the calculation turned out to be too thin. But no bad without good. But at least, and you have to curry favor with this brat Hilda, who looks at Lola with their black eyes, like he sees right through her.